Marcus had the kind of life that looks great from the outside and feels like a slow leak from the inside. 40 years old, government job, pension coming, health insurance, 2 kids in a good school, wife with a career of her own. By any measure anyone else would use, he was doing fine. By the measure he used at 3 in the morning when he couldn't sleep, he was doing time. Not prison time, something quieter. The time that passes when you're busy, but not building anything. When the calendar fills up, but not with anything you chose. When you're responsible, reliable, and somehow also disappearing. That's what I want to talk about today. Not investments, not side hustles, not productivity hacks. I want to talk about a specific psychological mechanism that operates in the minds of men with stable incomes. One that quietly eats the future they never got around to building. Marcus got his position at 26 after doing everything right. Studied, tested, entered the system. For the first few years, stability felt like freedom, like standing on solid ground after years of uncertainty. But somewhere around 35, something shifted. The solid ground started to feel less like a foundation and more like a floor he was trapped on. He didn't call it that. He called it being responsible. He called it having perspective. He called it knowing what matters. And all of those things were true. And also, all of those things were partially a story he was telling himself to avoid asking a question he didn't want to answer. The question was this: are you living the life you want, or the life that became available after you stopped believing something better was possible for you? That's a harder question than it looks, because comfort paralysis, which is what I'm describing, doesn't feel like giving up. It feels like wisdom. It feels like maturity. It feels like finally understanding how the world actually works. And that's exactly what makes it dangerous. Comfort paralysis is inertia wearing a suit. It acts, it produces, it pays the bills. But it never moves in the direction you would choose if you genuinely believed choosing was still an option. It's the not yet that quietly becomes too late. It's the dream that doesn't die. It just stops being mentioned. Marcus had one. He'd had it since he was 28. Something he'd always wanted to build, related to his actual skills, completely viable. But every time it surfaced, the same sequence happened. He'd think about it for a few minutes, then calculate the risk in terms of what he'd have to leave behind, then decide the timing wasn't right. He did that maybe 40 times over 12 years. Same sequence every time, same conclusion, different justifications. What he didn't see is that he wasn't being cautious. He was outsourcing his limits to his circumstances. He was letting what he had define what was possible, and calling that rationality. Before we continue, I need to show you something I built after understanding exactly what we're talking about here. It's called the Free Your Mind Kit, 3 tools that work together. The ebook has 35 pages of real financial psychological diagnosis. It's not a savings tip. It's a map of the invisible patterns that trap men with stable salaries. The cost of stability calculator is an interactive tool. You enter your numbers, and it shows you the real cost of not acting, in wealth, in time, in deferred freedom. And the Free Your Mind series is 3 audio tracks of 7 to 12 minutes, made to listen to when you wake up or before you sleep, working on identity, value, and action, where knowledge alone can't reach. The 3 complement each other. The ebook creates intellectual awareness. The calculator creates emotional awareness. The audios work on identity. It's not a course, no subscription, lifetime access. Everything for $9. The link is in the description when you're ready. Back to what we were saying. There's a resistance most men feel at this point in the conversation, a rational one. It says, "You're not accounting for my actual responsibilities. I have a family. I have obligations. I can't just decide to want something different. And that resistance is right, partially. What it gets wrong is the argument. Nobody is asking you to quit your job. Nobody is saying stability is the enemy. Stability is a tool. The question is whether you're using the tool, or the tool is using you. A man who uses stability as a foundation to build from is different from a man who uses stability as a reason not to build. The first one has a platform, the second one has a ceiling. The difference isn't the job, it's who gets to define the boundary of what's possible. Marcus started doing something after his version of that 3 a.m. realization. Something small and specific. Every day, before he opened his phone, he wrote the answer to one question. What would I do with this hour if I believed I was capable of building something real? Not to act immediately, just to see what his mind said when he removed the filter of fear. In a month, he had enough clarity to know exactly what he wanted to try. It wasn't reckless. It was something concrete, connected to what he already knew how to do, that he could start without leaving his job. He'd dismissed it at least 30 times before. But he'd never actually tried it. He'd tried deciding whether to try it. That's different. Deciding whether to try something and actually trying something are not the same cognitive act. One lives in the head, the other lives in the world. And the only way to know what's possible is to move something from the first place to the second. The cost of not doing that isn't dramatic. It doesn't show up on a bank statement. It shows up in the kind of man you become when you spend 10, 15, 20 years making safe choices that compound into a life that's organized, but not fully yours. Marcus is 3 years into the thing he finally started. He still has the government job, but he stopped using it as a ceiling. He uses it as a floor. And that difference between living under a ceiling and standing on a floor is the difference between a life you manage and a life you build. If what you heard here made sense, the Free Your Mind kit goes deeper. The link is in the description. Drop the word floor in the comments if something shifted. Not for me. For you, as a marker that something moved. Subscribe to the channel. Not for motivation, for a different way of seeing the things you thought you already understood. And the next time you're lying awake at 3, pay attention to what the voice is trying to say. It usually knows what you've been avoiding.